Let the dragon consume you! Enemy sighted. Stop the payload! Stop the payload! In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
The Birdwatcher's back at it one more time. Here's your host, Ryan and Clay. They're about to bring you some sweet Overwatch action.
All right, welcome back to the episode Big 4-0.
The Big 4-0.
Did you know this was
that
episode
actually
40?
Fits, right? Huh?
Did you know this was episode 40?
Yeah.
I'm
looking forward to it.
I
man.
literally just found that out a second ago.
But it works. Like, it has marketing potential, right? 4-0. It's like, when a team gets rolled.
Yeah, I thought you were saying I was 40, and that's rude.
Oh, well, that I didn't say that. Come on. You don't look a day over 55.
Yeah, that's actually fair. But yeah, we are back for episode 40, talking about
Yes.
week 2, stage
We've
1.
done 40 already?
Yeah.
I guess what? 40. So we did our 1 year, so we did about 40 a year. So we'll be 80 next year. We'll probably do more than that, right?
Yeah.
Contenders is starting. We got to figure out what we're going to do with that.
Absolutely.
People want what the people want. But as you were.
Yeah. So week 2, stage 1.
Mm-hmm.
And as we were talking about before the episode, kind of the Wild West out there, right, Ryan? Teams beating teams that we couldn't be more far off than we are now, right?
Exactly. And it makes watch parties exciting when you have this kind of, because we have the watch parties and people come to see Atlanta, but we always tell people, hey, this is for the full night. So if you guys want to hang out and watch other games, and people do stay because these games are that exciting, even though it's not your team playing.
Yeah.
And that being said, so we've had a couple more watch parties, our gold level events, as I mentioned before, and we've had really good turnout. The last one was this week when we played Toronto Defiant for the jersey colors, and we ended up winning. We had 75 people come out to our small event, so that's a really good turnout.
Yeah, that's crazy, man.
So that being said, we have another gold event coming up at Battle and Brew, as usual, for the March 2nd Saturday game against Paris, starting at 3 p.m. Eastern. So if you're in the area, if you're close, if you have some time to kind of kick back and hang out with some people, definitely swing by. We'll be there. We'll be giving away prizes again. We had a bingo event. One of the fans, the well-known fans, her name's Kelsey. I think her name's Eternal Forest on Twitter. She made a bingo card. I was like, hey, this would be a cool idea while you watch the games. And it was. People loved it. I made a bunch of randomized cards, gave out like 30 of them. Obviously, that wasn't enough. So next time I'll have about like 300 ready to go. And we gave away prizes. I think we have like a $25 gift card, a Lana Rain hoodie, and a collector's pin.
Dope.
And those people were happy. So,
Yeah,
definitely. Come out to Paris. And then I'll announce the next weeks as well when that comes out.
Yeah, don't have to go out to the local old folks home to play bingo. You can get another watch party too. Yeah. All kinds of
What
fun.
if you did go? What if you did go and they were watching Overwatch?
Yeah, that'd be crazy. Or what if you just went for bingo? You had no idea what Overwatch was.
Exactly.
Hey, you never know. You want to talk standings this week?
Yeah, let's do it. Take us through it.
We didn't get to report on the last game from last week, which is Soul Dynasty Dallas Fuel. This is actually a game I'm going to go back and watch because, season 1, I had to love Dallas Fuel, so
yeah,
I'm still kind of a fan. So I'm going to go back and watch this, but Dallas did take it 3-1, bringing us into week 2, not stage 2, which I've been clicking on and being like, why? There's no one reporting. What is going on?
None of the team images are loading or anything. It's just like blank.
Yeah. Who was playing who? Yeah. But yeah, we'll start us off on Thursday where we see Washington battle London. London taking that one 3-2.
Dude, this game.
Yeah.
I'm not going to go deep into it.
Yeah, pretty good.
I was at a mall and there was a random TV on, and this was on.
That's crazy.
I don't know why.
Yeah,
and I was watching it while I was waiting for my movie to start, and I could not believe my eyes.
Did people look over at you like you're a little weird?
Maybe.
Probably.
Giant black dudes. I always get attention.
Watching
right?
video games at the mall.
Exactly, watching video games.
Did he come?
Drinking his Java chip
Oh my God.
cappuccino from Starbucks.
That's crazy. But our next one, which is, man, crazy for both of us, I'm sure. Philly, Florida. Philly losing. Florida taking 2 maps, and Philly
don't
getting
understand.
1. Yeah, that's crazy.
What is Overwatch?
Yeah, like I said, man, Wild West out there. Just anybody out there winning. Guangzhou Charge, Dallas Fuel. Guangzhou take it 4-0.
Another shocker.
Yeah, no joke. Seoul Dynasty, Chengdu for the last match of the night. Seoul taking it 4-0. Giving.
And by the way, this was a 4-0, but it was definitely an interesting match. I mean, Seoul figured out what Hunters were doing.
Yeah.
But it's still a good watch, even though it's a 4-0.
Yeah, what match are we talking about, Ryan?
What match are we talking? Well, we're talking about Toronto Defiant.
Yeah.
And then we're talking about Vancouver versus Charge.
Okay, good. I didn't want to ruin that. I thought I just did with that. I was like, oh man, all these
no.
cute logos. I can't remember.
I swapped it up on you in our private message. Yeah.
So that brings us into Friday. We're not going to talk Atlanta, Toronto quite yet. We'll get there, and we're not going to talk about New York and LA because we're going to talk about that as well. But Shanghai, Boston, Shanghai, 3-1, first win in the Overwatch League.
Dude, I almost cried when I saw Kaguri cry.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm sure they were pretty stoked on that.
And I want to say, because I got a little bit of backlash on the forums. We were talking about how Boston Uprising fans are suffering because of all the drama. Always remember, even though these things are happening, you guys were the same team that after the Dreamcasper incident had the only perfect stage in league history.
That's true. Yeah, just
never
dominated
forget
that stage, right?
So even though you guys have some adversity now, there's a high possibility you guys bounce back and do something crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
so keep your head up.
Figuring out team synergy at this point in the new meta.
Dragons had to beat somebody.
Yeah, it's crazy that it was Boston Uprising. I mean, obviously a different team than we saw at the end of last season, but nonetheless, Shanghai had to get one. So. Houston Outlaws, Hangzhou Spark, last game of the night. Houston taking that one 3-1. Taking us into Saturday, where the Glads lose to Paris 2-1.
Paris still looking good, man.
Yeah.
Nico is, I picked him up in fantasy.
Yeah, pretty good.
He's doing work for the team.
Yeah, absolutely. This is another shocker. Philly with the second loss of the week. Dallas Fuel 3-1 over, Philly.
The team who just lost to the Charge.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. So it's such a back and forth. Who's going to beat who? It's crazy. It's going to make an interesting season for sure. Just not knowing going into it, because last season we kind of knew a lot of the games going into it.
Exactly.
Next match is Vancouver Titans, Guangzhou Charge. We'll talk about that one, of course. And then Chengdu Hunters and Florida Mayhem. Chengdu taking it to 5, getting it in 3.
Once again, another confusing match.
It is Sunday. We're not going to talk about Sunday at all because the games are live. We will
recording a little bit early today. Yeah,
hit those at the beginning of the cast next week for sure.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's our standings. That's where we're at, and now we're gonna just hop straight into it.
Yeah.
So we mentioned the 3 matches we have for you all today. We're gonna start with the Titans versus Charge. I think it's Guangzhou. I said it like that, and I hope that's correct.
I'm just safe. Right. I say Charge, and I hope I pronounce that correct.
Yeah, just Charge, right? That's easy.
Yeah.
But we start off here with a control map, Nepal, and Charge looks good. They've been known as one of the Chinese teams to have these different comps that they're showing, and they actually start out with the single tank triple DPS here, and it looks pretty solid. It's almost like, it feels like when I'm watching it that they're playing with a handicap, because you have to be so much more efficient with that comp versus Goats has more leeway for mistakes.
It's almost like
as long as you stay together.
Glass cannon effect, right? Like you have a high impact damage wise, but you lose one guy, it sets you back a little bit.
Yeah, that's actually a great description. But here they start. So we're on Village, and Happy and Eileen are kind of popping off here. They're causing a lot of disruption on. You have Happy on Widow and Eileen on Sombra, and they're able to take the Village round. And then this takes us to Sanctuary, where Charge once again show up. Titans do start off strong. They get it to about 99%, and then the Charge are able to flip, and after they flip it, they're able to hold it the remainder of the round, and they start this match off up 1-0. And then that takes us straight into Hollywood. And Titans kind of show their strength. We have a sub here. We have a Somin Su subbing in for Stitch, because Somin Su is a better Zarya, as they say it so far, as Stitch is. Stitch is more hit scan. And then we have Kib coming in, subbing in for Eileen, which is another, not really a shocker. One thing I did learn, by the way, Clay, is that they said they didn't think about picking up Kib until they saw him on the world stage.
Oh, nice. Well, so that there is impact.
So they
there.
called him up right after that tournament ended.
Yeah, that's
to
dope.
come do trials, and then he made the team.
That's amazing. I mean, yeah, some impact there as well. That's cool.
And that shows that, a lot of people have been questioning the value of the World Cup outside of just representing your nation and people coming together. But that shows you right there. It's just another big stage for people to show up on. It's all tryouts. Like the whole Path to Pro thing may not be perfect, but every time you put these people on camera and allow them to show their ability against the best in the world, somebody's gonna see it.
Yeah.
Somebody's gonna want to have that.
Absolutely. I think it's a lot of people in their minds, they think it's almost like for fun. I mean, yeah, obviously there's a lot of fun involved too, but people, they're out there trying for sure. They scrim every night, they practice, they get ready for these things. There's a lot of money involved too, and obviously you want to show how good you are too, especially if you're not already picked up.
Yeah, exactly. So back to Hollywood here. Titans make it very difficult for Charge. They do struggle on attack, and they get a few opportunities where, they get the picks, but it almost, Titans get the picks back. So you have these even like three fights or these four fights, and Titans having the highest team fight win percentage out of all the teams currently, it's very risky to take those opportunities. So Charge allows themselves to have their respawns and then just do a full fight again, but it never works out in their favor. They never get more than one tick on point one. And then when Titans swap to their attack, they win the first fight fairly quickly and they tie the series up 1-1. So this is another this was a fast kind of turnaround to balance out the series. And then we go into another game, which is on Volskaya here, where Titans show up again. Both teams are able to full cap in round one, but Titans have much more time. I believe they have like 4 minutes or somewhere around there, almost 5 minutes, where Charge only has a little bit over one. Charge really only gets one shot on the second round on point one, but Titans are able to full hold, and then they're able to cap with almost 5 minutes to do so, right? It's not that hard. So you have back-to-back maps. So Titans end up taking the lead here. So it's 2-1 now in this series. And this actually takes us to the map that I'm going to call the map of the match.
We got to get a soundbite. We're not going to use that one. We can't. That wasn't good.
We're going to work on it.
We're going to get celebrity, like a celebrity soundbite.
Yeah, me.
Whoa.
I'll just do it.
I want somebody. I'm not talking like high level celebrity. I'm talking like, I don't know.
Oh, wait. Should we get the guy who does our intro?
Yeah, we should.
We should probably get him.
He's got a great voice.
I meant to tell you that this is big conspiracy. People keep asking me, who is that guy? Who did y'all get to do that voice? And they'll never know because we're not going to tell them.
Yeah, that's true. Except when I told my friends, they're like, oh, yeah? Yeah, I know exactly who that is. You're not funny. Yeah.
Spilling the beans.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll work on that, guys. We'll work on that.
Yeah.
We need to integrate that. But yeah, so Route 66 here. This is a great match. I definitely recommend if you can watch one match from this whole series, watch this one. That's why it's the map of the match. But both teams put up a hell of a defense. Like everyone is constantly struggling. If you're on attack, you were struggling through this map. Not because you were doing poor, it's just that the defensive team at that point was doing a great job. And this leaves both teams with only a minute remaining. We end up going into round two, and Charge kind of take the advantage here with the element of surprise. They go quad DPS, right? So they've done triple DPS before, so that's not surprising, but they actually break out the quad DPS on this point one and completely surprise Titans. And Kib just steps up on Farah. We all know how good his Farah is, but he pops off, and it causes a lot of issues, allows them to get that point one and a little bit further into streets. And then we move to Titans on attack, and they make their attempt with the predictable Ana Goats, because Titans is, they're good players, but we all know how good they are at Goats, right? So they stick to the formula. But Charge see that coming. So, for some reason in this as well, they're not really losing the fights. They're just not pushing carts. And there's a point where you can hear the pain in Doa. So it's Doa and Monty casting here. And Doa is constantly like, please push the cart, push the cart, push the cart. And they're kind of trying to keep their butt hanging off the edge to push it, but they need to just commit to pushing the cart so they can match the distance. And that comes back to bite them in the ass later here. And they actually end up getting stopped, and Charge tied this up 2-2. At this point, very surprising. I mean, Charge has been doing well, but Titans, Bumper came out. I think it was Bumper that came out and said they're going to 4-0 everybody. And then the first map they lose, right?
Yeah.
It was very surprising. But this takes us to our, not deal breaker, but our tiebreaker here on Nepal for the control map. And Titans come out the gate, swinging, pun intended. But Charge attempts triple DPS again. They see it coming, doesn't really work. It puts them behind on alt economy, and Titans take this round without much resistance. We move to Lighthouse then, and Charge start a lot stronger here. They get that initial cap, and they actually use the alt advantage in this one to their benefit, and they are able to keep it throughout the round and push it to the very end, which is the third round here on Wells. And Titans opt to actually put Somin Su on the McCree, which is very risky here, because when you do the Rissa McCree, protect the McCree situation, if you don't start off with a team fight win, it puts you behind, and you actually have to be forced to swap to full goats, and then you'll be behind on economy, right? So it's a risky gamble here, but he comes out and he pops off. He's taking people out like left and right. I think he dies once, and at that point is when they decide they wanted to swap the comp anyways. And then Charge stay in it all the way to the end. It's about like 77% in Charge's favor, and then 99% on Titans. And then Janu has the biggest bomb you've seen this year with a 4K bomb. You've probably seen the clip on the internet somewhere or on Reddit, and it's amazing, and you should watch this map. It's very good, and that puts Titans over, and they take it 3-2.
Man, I was going to say, was it a bigger bomb than the guy singing at the finals, but I couldn't remember his name, so the joke was ruined.
DJ Khaled.
Yeah. So there was no joke to be made.
Yeah, I at least you're constantly turning the wheel. Right? The hamsters are constantly moving.
Yeah, I almost looked it up, and I was like, I wouldn't even know what I would look for.
You had no frame of reference.
Nope. No, I did not.
But yeah, that was definitely a good match. I originally planned on doing the Dynasty versus Hunters, and then I was in the middle of watching that one, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna do this match because they definitely went at it. So Charge earned Titans respect. They changed their tune to not saying they're gonna 4-0 everybody anymore.
Right.
There's definitely it's shown that people are meeting adversity. Like, you can lose even if you're the best team.
Yeah,
it's happening.
Yeah, especially this week where we're seeing a lot of just unusual games happen. Yeah, crazy.
All right, so what do you have for us, Clay?
We're talking about the Battle of the Titans from last season. I guess they're still Titans now. I definitely consider LA, New York, definitely top tier teams. And they take it to all five. No spoilers. I mean, they just like yours, man. These are some really close games. So we kick it off on Nepal, where we see LA bring back a 99-0, where it looks like LA is not going to be able to get onto the point at all. They just are wiped over and over. But when they finally do, Kareev just maintains this insane charge this entire time where it just doesn't go away. And he also does a really weird thing where a lot of times you'll see Zarya's put pressure on the Diva, try to get her a mech. He almost solely focuses Jonak, and you see Jonak die a few times in a row just to Kareev, focusing him, which is great because you take a huge DPS, the Discord, out of the picture, and then he's not able to get his trans in a proper amount of time. They just are able to hold it from 99, which is really crazy.
That's a great point. So on Reddit, someone posted a box plot chart, which is just a chart to kind of show comparisons between medians, maxes, and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And naturally, the highest outputting support player by a league, a huge margin, is still Jonak. He's still insane, right? And for Kareev to focus him makes sense because the DMEC is in this situation, right? It's situation specific, is almost less valuable than just killing Jonak.
Yeah. Yeah, it was crazy to watch because, like I said, a lot of times you see Zarya's do a few things. They focus shields, they focus Diva. Huge impact on this one. Taking it to map 2 on Nepal, this one didn't seem as close. I mean, it was definitely not someone holding it the entire time, but it does go 62-99, where Nini gets a one grab the entire time. He's the Zarya for Nene. Nini. Okay. Yeah, it's Nene, but I'm going to call him Nini because it's unintimidating.
Unlike his damage, Nene is insane. He was also on that chart, by the way.
Yeah, he is very good. And this was just an off game for him. And I mean, a lot of that just has to do with, is your team staying alive? Can I maintain high charge and get a grab? He only gets one grab. He uses it almost defensively after Kareev grabs his team. So it just no way to swing into it. There's no Diva Bomb to follow it up. And just wasn't impactful enough because Kareev managed to get 2 grabs to his 1, and they're just pretty much in control the entire time. So they take map 1, Nepal, and we see a huge turnaround on Hollywood. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, I was going to say Kareev playing Zarya kind of reminds me of the current Defiant situation playing Zarya.
Yeah.
Where for both players, their bubble management is not great. Their grabs are questionable.
Yeah.
But their ability to build charge and ult so quickly is what kind of it shores up that handicap, so it balances their play out and it makes them that much more dangerous.
Yeah, absolutely. Because most
or just
Zaryas
as dangerous
are a little bit more reserved than these two. These guys have a lot of damage dealing backgrounds. Kareev, obviously, we saw him do damage last season and play support, which is a little strange. He just does it all. But he does.
He's like an
maintain
Erster.
Yeah, just does it all.
He can play anything. Like when Erster hopped on Diva,
yeah,
one of those games. Everybody's like, "Oh, all right, sure, why not?"
Just picking random heroes at this point. Hollywood, just a change of pace all around. Custa comes out for Kuki, which it has Kuki listed as a tank player for LAV. He played Lucio here, and we know Custa obviously this huge impact shot caller. It shows a lot here. They seemed a little confused on how they wanted to take point one, and it takes them a long time to do it. The one thing that really did stick out to me for LAV, though, is Izaki. Izaki, I guess it's not his.
That's right. Izaki.
Yeah. He, on the Zenyatta, just all kinds of damage output. He is pretty much the sole one getting picks on point one for LAV, where everybody else is a little scattered, not sure exactly what to do. It looks like a lack of leadership going into this. And it kind of continues into point two, where we see LA pretty dominant as far as alts going into it, but they're wiped from this huge diva bomb from Echo. He just throws it out there. It's not into a grab or anything else. The whole team kind of prepares themselves for it, and Mono's able to just land a shatter on him, and that pretty much stops the attack for LA. And way smoother on the New York side. Super coordinated. They trick LA on point one to jump down, follow him, and pretty much just trap him down there and take point one within 30 seconds. And then point two, not a lot of crazy stuff. They just move the cart really quickly, manage their ults really well, and they kill LA on streets.
Nice. Izaki is definitely something special.
Yeah, absolutely.
I wasn't familiar with him until he showed up on the roster, and especially on this roster, it felt kind of out of place. But his accuracy is insane, and he's definitely been talked about in the Zenyatta category.
Yeah, he impressed me. Another thing that really impressed me, and this is a lot of time you see this with Custa, the disengages and the re-engages with the Lucio speed is something that we did not see at all in Hollywood. We saw it from New York a lot. LA would pop, a brig ult. New York would back up, let it wear off, and then come back in ready for the fight. Where LA was just full frontal a lot of times, which can work out in your advantage if you're a highly aggressive team. But they weren't getting anything out of it. New York would just back up, let the ults wear off, and just re-engage. It was really nice to watch for sure.
Oh man.
Yeah, and then we go to Volskaya, this is probably the oddest Volskaya map I've watched this season so far. Because what do we see? 5, 6 caps out of these things? Totally different on this one. LA start us off on goats. They use the Rhine instead of the Winston. A lot of times, teams will use the Winston. New York did start us off with the Winston, but it just didn't do much. He's not able to really get in there because Fate just randomly charges Jonak, who's in the back by himself. I mean, Jonak, you're really good, but the 1v6s, they're tough. They're hard. I don't doubt you in any way, but
the New York Jonak.
Yeah. Because you're just like, where the hell did he die? And then you look at his corpse and he's behind LA somehow. You're like, how did you get there? LA almost steamrolls onto point two with just that momentum and the amount of ults they had going to it. Meko does a good job. He gets bomb almost every fight. He gets up, picks, gets 1 or 2 picks every fight with the bombs. That slows LA down to about a minute left after capping point two. Because all for naught, though, New York comes with this 4 DPS like we had talked about. Who did this last week? We saw a couple teams do the Wrecking Ball, Sombra, Farrah Mercy for the attack on Volskaya.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Especially against teams that also have a Hammond, right? It's kind of to give you that counter.
Yeah. Well, this was kind of weird because we see Jonak play Tracer, where I don't see him the entire time. He missed the one pulse ball he got. We see Libero barrage no one, and they don't even get a tick. I don't even think I think they EMP'd once, and it was on maybe a tank. They're held at .1, not able to do anything. So LA take map 3, putting us at LA to 2 and New York to 1.
Oh man.
Yeah, and then Rialto, which we almost get to see all of Rialto here, which we usually don't get to.
Yeah, a lot of Rialto maps have been short.
Yeah, even after the cart speed up buff, LA scrappy through .1, pretty slow at it, and then .2 they just can't really put it together. They're not combining any alts. A lot of their support alts they waste, or they'll use after 1 or 2 guys are down, and New York just take advantage of it. And they come back, cruise through the first part, no deaths, no wipes, but they are stopped at .2 for a long time. It looks like LA's going to be able to do it. It's weird because New York kills agilities and they kill Kareev really early on a fight on streets. But LA fire back, get a couple kills as well. But when agilities come back, he comes back as Wrecking Ball, obviously. Probably not the best Wrecking Ball, and Kareev comes back as Reaper. I've seen Kareev play Reaper; he's very good. But the sustain that New York has with just full goats, the amount of healing, armor, all that kind of stuff, they just out pressure him. It's almost like if LA would have just stuck to it and just came back a little bit slower, because they had a little bit of time left to get back there. I think they would have been able to hold this, but Kareev gets locked down by a brig, dies immediately as soon as he comes back, and he just can't do anything about it. So. New York take Rialto, I mean, just barely, too. This was crazy.
Yeah.
Taking us to map 5, Ilios, all tied up at this point. It's weird. On this map 1 of Ilios, New York does give about 60%, but it looks like they never really wipe, even giving up 62%. This is that disengage, re-engage method that they're really good at.
They're so good at it, and it's something that I hope that Atlanta gets better at. Because if I had to say we had one weak point, our disengaging is really poor. And New York's kind of the blueprint for doing it very well, since they were that defensive team of last year.
Absolutely. They stick together as a ball. They don't even lose people when they disengage. They, or, you see a lot of teams lose somebody, they'll disengage. New York sees that they're under pressure, that they might not win the fight. They disengage to not lose anybody and just come right back and hit them. So like I said, LA does get 62% on this map, but it's at the hands of New York giving it to him, because New York really never gives up on this map. Map 2 is, it's a really good back and forth. Both teams do get it to 99%. New York in the last percentages just have so much ult advantage that they've just built up, and you can kind of tell that they're ready for this. Kind of like on map 1, they do lose quite a few fights, but they come back ready for the last fight. Have a lot of ults going into it, and they're able to win. So New York takes it 3-2.
One thing I wanted to comment on is that we should start calling this the Battle of the Coast, or Coast to Coast Battle, right?
Yeah, because New York's on one coast and LA's on another coast, I think.
Exactly.
I haven't looked at it.
As the Canadian on the podcast, I'll defer that to you.
Yeah, sure. I don't know if I have a map of the map. I just looking at all of these. Nepal is really good, but one of the maps isn't great. I don't know. They're all so weird. Maybe
probably
this
the
last
one.
Yeah, maybe. But New York just does nothing on .1. Nothing. I don't know. It's weird. It almost seems like each team had a really good map, and the other team just didn't come to play that map.
Yeah, so. Meko and Mono, I want to give a shout out. So they've been doing extremely well. They've been playing. I mean, obviously they're good, but last year there was this thing where they kind of petered out towards the end, as far as that tank duo, and now they've been doing extremely well.
Oh yeah, dude.
So I don't want to point that out.
The synergy, the grab, or not the grab, the slams and the diva bombs were so on point, man, because they almost just bait the bomb, and Mono's just able to just get this free slam on a lot of team, or a lot of the players on LA.
Yeah,
it was dope.
All right, so this takes us into our last map, or our feature match for this episode. Good old episode 40, and of course, it's our Atlanta Reign versus the Toronto Defiant. So this is one of those games, right, where me living in Atlanta but being from Toronto, it's like an internal battle, right? And this was A battle indeed, right?
It was,
a lot more
it was
exciting than I
tearing
thought
you
it would be.
apart, wasn't it, Ryan?
It was tearing me apart because
Yeah.
I expected Toronto to be terrible, but they're not. They're actually a pretty good team, and
Absolutely.
they're kind of finding their way. Especially, we're going to talk about Envy looking much better now on the Diva than in the previous week. But so we start with Busan here, our control map, and Mecha Base is our first round, and Rain looked good here. They look solid. So first of all, they come out. So one thing we've talked about is how we established ourselves that we can play damn near any comp. I don't know how any team watches film on us because every map is different.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the benefit, right? Like, you don't want the teams to be able to know going into it. Oh, it was awesome.
Yeah, but we have both teams coming out with a single tank comp here. So you have Widow Tracer, Zen Lucio, and Hammond. ATL uses Brogan as their 6th, and then Toronto's using Sombra as their 6th. And one thing I want to mention about this map is the camera work is terrible. The first, I want to say like 2 minutes, there's probably about like 5 or 6 kills, and none of them are captured on camera.
Yeah, it was very odd because they didn't follow either of the Widowmakers for more than like 10 seconds, which you just stick to those. Most of those guys, or both those guys, were alive for almost the entire game. Yeah. Minus some picks.
And one thing I want to say is, so we're going to pronounce it Enlir. Okay? Enlir. Okay. That's what we're going to pronounce it. I've heard Nailer. I've Enlar. I've heard Enelar. It's Enlir. That's what I'm going with.
It sounds good to me.
If he wants to message us personally and tell us how to pronounce it, we'll accept that.
Yeah.
But we need consistency here, at least for something, once in a while, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, Enlir looks a lot better here. So we talked about in previous episodes how he looked like he was uncomfortable or probably nervous, and he wasn't playing up to the standard we expected. But here, his Widow looks like on point. And the opposite, Stellar, is also playing good on Widow for Toronto. But every time they swap to Stellar, you can see Defran in his view, like constantly harassing him. Defran's on Tracer. That's his bread and butter. And every time they swap to him, Defran is doing his job of staying on his butt. And it works out for him here because ATL ends up taking the round.
Yeah, it was crazy. Like you had mentioned, the camera work was a little shoddy, but it was cool to see the Widow picks getting followed up on. The only thing that I thought was weird was the Brig pick, because it almost seemed like the whole team was pretty mobile, except for the Brig. And I guess just because you need to have something on the point for presence, because the Hammond is going to be rolling around, pressuring the other Widow. But yeah, both teams did a really good job following up on the Widow picks. One of the Widows would get a pick, hop right in. Yeah, it was cool.
I thought it was a good. The reason I thought the Brogan as the 6th instead of the Sombra, like what Toronto did, was smart, was because they have Tracer and Sombra, right? So Brogan helps you against both of those,
absolutely,
and also gives you that sustain.
Yeah.
So I thought that was still smart of a pick there rather than having the Sombra. But this takes us to Shrine, where Defiant steps it up, and they're completely in control here. This looks like a completely different team, and part of this is due to Envy playing a lot better on Diva now. He's completing a lot of kills. Him and then Aid on Moira, actually. We haven't got to see a lot of Moira, and this is some great. I think he gets 3 coalescence in this one fight or something like that. And the thing about Shrine is that the entry points and the exit points on that map, if you're not in the middle, which is completely open, you're getting to the point, you have to go through a lot of choke points. So Moira's actually really solid here because not only can you completely heal up your whole team since you're in one place, you can damage their whole team because they're in one place, right?
Yeah, it was able to put out more healing than I think Kodak was on the Zenyatta, where he only gets 1 trance. 3 coalescence is a ton of healing and just a ton of damage towards the Rhine shield, where it backs Atlanta up so much that they're just getting shattered or grabbed. And yeah, Toronto's just able to build up so many ults just from those.
Yeah. So Defiant ended up taking Shrine handedly. They moved to downtown, and once again, Toronto looks like they're in control here. And part of that is, so we talked about Enlir, his Widow looked better, right? That's what he's known for, is his Widow, his hit scan play. But his Brogan still struggles, and this is throughout. I think if, going into practice, I would want to focus more on him practicing this character.
Yeah.
Although they would rather have Erster on that character. If you use Erster, you don't get the hit scan flex.
Correct.
So yeah, he was struggling here, and he could barely stay alive this whole match. And he continues to look great on Diva, and Defiant ended up taking this round and flipping it to take Busan and start off 1-0 against Rain.
Yeah,
which surprised everybody at the watch party.
It surprised me, especially after round one, where it looked like, I mean, map one on Mecha Base, it was definitely competitive, but Atlanta looked like they were having fun, just able to get as many picks as they could, and just hold on to it. And then these next two maps are like, oh, what's going on? Especially map 3, where we see Atlanta struggle with ult economy. When they get ults, they'd almost use them so reactively that, like, these fights are already lost. Why are we throwing grabs out? Why are we throwing beats out? And Toronto's just, the ult management on map 3 is just beautiful to watch.
Yeah. So this takes us into Numbani, and Rain kind of steps up here. So we do have substitutions, and we will have for all these maps. So Dogman comes in for Kodak, and Dako comes out for Enlir. And I think that's another, we talked about how do teams study our film? How do teams study our players? Because we use our whole roster. It's a beautiful thing. Like, it feels like the ideal way to run an organization, right? Put them in a dope house. Make sure they're eating right. Make sure they're healthy mentally. Make sure everybody's getting playtime and you're finding a use for everybody. Use strats that are fun. Make sure everybody's smiling. Like, it's almost too good to be true. Right. But that being said, so we start off here with Deviant on attack here, and Toronto struggles. They burn a majority of their time.
Did you say Deviant?
A Defiant. That just
Toronto Deviants.
I went Toronto.
I mean, I guess to be a deviant, you have to be defiant, but it sounds like they're like 14-year-old, like mischiefs.
Loitering.
They're so deviant.
A bunch of layabouts, like they just don't get up early in the morning or some shit like that.
Yeah.
Thanks for always looking out for me, man.
Yeah, I just laughed.
Toronto Deviants.
Yeah.
The Defiant, they struggle. And this we talked about going up top, right, on Numbani on attack. When it's Reinhardt versus Winston and what makes sense. And this is one case where you can use Winston because Atlanta is also using Winston. So it makes sense that they do use it here, but they still struggle a lot to try to get through that point, mainly because they're getting picks before they can initiate fights. So they do end up capping it. And in streets, they struggle because continuously Atlanta's playing that aggressive defense. Same thing we saw from Atlanta Academy. That's not a coincidence, right? We're kind of known for that aggressive style, and we do it very well. So as they struggle to get through streets, there's a point where they have like one more attempt, and Roki on Lucio actually tries to attempt a back cap. And as he comes around the corner, because they're on his camera, you just see Dogman sitting on the point, and he lands a sick volley and kills Roki in no time. Very funny.
So, Dogman was on fire, man. He was definitely catching heads this entire defense.
I like to call that strategy the guard dog.
Yeah, absolutely. I would be scared to, I don't know, man, a back cap there. I mean, you have to at that point.
Yeah.
It seems like as soon as he comes around that corner, he's just like HP is 0. He just gets all 5 orbs in the face. Yeah, because
Lucio can win that 1v1. It's almost even, if not more in favor of the Lucio.
Yeah, especially if that Lucio gets in their face, but he just, man, it's so projected that I guess Dogman's like, oh, yeah, I see you coming around. I'm going to load this up and just put it right on him.
Make the play, man.
Yeah.
So then we go to Rain on attack here, and Atlanta cap point 1 after the first fight, which gives them plenty of time ahead of what Toronto had. And Defiant then try to do the same aggressive defense because they have no choice, right? We've seen this in Atlanta Academy fights where they force teams to try to do what they're doing, and they can't.
Yeah.
And part of the reason they can't really pull it off is Defran for some reason just levels up, and he's full charge, and he's just carrying the team. Like the whole right side of the screen is just Zarya for the remainder of this match. And this leads to Atlanta capping and tying the series 1-1.
Yeah, I like that Atlanta started us off on the Reinhardt. It's a little weird because at one point they're getting kind of focused from above them, but they force Toronto to come down to the point where the Reinhardt-Winston battle is so easy. I mean, you're just swinging into this, it's a soft target compared to how, the Rhine shield and stuff like that. It forcing them down, getting them to fight them on the same ground, really turned it around.
Exactly. So this takes us to Horizon Lunar Colony. And this is going to be our map of the match.
Yeah.
We'll get working on that soundbite. But yes, we get subs here. And let me take a deep breath before we go through this one. This one's fun. So Kodak subs Dogman. We have Enelier subbing back in for Erster. And Defiant get to attack here first. So they're able to push. So Atlanta has this Bastion Widow comp on high ground, which they've tried in the past. And if Enlayer's playing well, it works out. Here, he's still having a little bit of trouble. He's not very consistent, and I want him to work on that. I want him to get better, right?
I just don't love that comp. I'm going to be honest with you.
Yeah. Why not?
Widow is so low impact against goats or these high HP targets where all the supports are sitting behind the shield. Yeah, sure, you can catch a Zenyatta or a Lucio out. It's so hard on Horizon. There's just so much to tuck away from. What they do at the very end is the comp they need to play. We'll get to that.
Unless you're happy, then you can land those shots.
Yeah, that's true.
He had some pretty insane, sniping some supports out from the back. But so that's point one. Point one, they get it. They break through the Bastion Widow. It's not, like you said, Clay, it's not that big of a deal. And then we get to point two, and this is when something beautiful happens. So let's talk about Atlanta's comp here. So Atlanta goes Mei, Bastion, Orisa, Diva, Zen, Mercy. And I want everybody to kind of follow me through how this composition works and this plan. So the whole purpose is positioning. So you have Diva and Mercy. They position on the top beam, right, on the Mei or on that middle platform, or above the point where you cap. And then you have Mei on the platform that's nearest to the car. Just the platform everybody's familiar with. That's where the defensive team usually, or the attacking team usually comes through, right? And then you have another platform that's close to where the big pack health is, where there's little stairs there, and it's close to the defending team spawn. And that's where the remainder of the comp sits, right? So what that does is it covers all your bases as far as where the team can come, and you kind of figure out and scout. Well, once the team comes in, they can't really take point unless they come to contest the Bastion Orisa that's sitting up on the high ground, right? And the Zenyatta. That's too much damage. That's too much rain damage for them to deal with. They'll melt, especially if they're playing ghosts.
Damage?
Oh my gosh.
Rain damage? Come on. We got to get these approved before the cast.
I know, we got to get these trademarked, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's beautiful. And essentially what happens, so say we're Toronto, when you come in, you have to go the long way around the fat pack, go up the stairs, and the moment you try to engage on the Orisa, Bastion, and Zenyatta, Mei from the other side, played by Enleer, will just put up a wall and split your team. So then you're like, okay, well, we're screwed because they kill everybody in front of the wall, and the people behind the wall are screwed because you're playing goats. You need everybody. Well, if that wall doesn't work, then you have the Halt from Orisa to pull everybody down.
Yeah, it's a beautiful work of synergy too, especially I think maybe 2 or 3 times in a row they catch Toronto's Ryan off guard, and he's in front of the wall and just like shit. And I think at one point they used a Lucio to try to keep him up, and it doesn't do anything.
And they even pulled out his shatter, so he's going to try to shatter in front of the wall, and they halted him down and they hit the ground. And the other beautiful thing about this is contesting. So if they even try to go on point, Diva and Mercy just jump down. Yeah. And if they don't, then Diva and Mercy just stay up top and they shoot at whatever platform they're engaging on. So it's like you talk about, remember the concern about our team, right? Was communication. This is probably one of the hardest things to communicate is this kind of setup, and we're doing it. And this has to scare the shit out of teams because they're saying, okay, well, they're so confident in their communication. They have 5 nationalities on the team, but they're confident that they can pull this off, and they did. For I think it burned 3 minutes or 3+ minutes of their time.
I think they have about 1:45 after capping point 2.
Yeah. So Toronto is able to figure it out, and they end up getting through and capping it. But everybody's kind of shocked at this point that we pulled it off. So there's that. All right. So we move to Atlanta on attack, and Atlanta's able to get point 1 on the first attempt. Since Toronto here is weird, they don't really contest for a while. They just let us take about a tick and a half for some reason. And then on point 2, Envy starts to step up and play out of his mind, mainly eating damn near every last one of Defran's grabs. The only one Defran's really able to get off is in the final fight before we end up capping, where Popo gets a huge shatter, and then Defran gets a clean follow-up grab because Envy is knocked down from the shatter. And then that leads us to round 2. So in round 2, Atlanta's able to roll over Toronto on both points at full cap, only having a minute to do so. And I was like, okay, cool. That's one thing probably happens once in a while, right? All right, we'll get there. So Toronto gets point 1 with ease as well, but then there's something interesting that happens on point 2, which I thought was going to end the game. So, and tell me if you saw this, Clay. So when Envy decides to diva bomb, so they do a grab on that one of those pylons, right, on the point.
Yep.
Envy diva bombs, but Masa gets a sound barrier just in time, so it keeps everybody alive after explosion. Well, after explosion, it bumps Kodak up on the platform by the car, so he now has high ground. And then
I did not see that.
Yeah, then Defran grabs and pulls him to the opposite corner, and he gets free reign, and he gets 3 kills.
Oh no!
Dude, it was insane. Go back and watch it because it bounces him off the roof. He hits the back wall and he lands directly on the platform and he stays up there. And it's the smartest thing. But Toronto do end up getting it on the next wave in overtime to move us to round 3.
Yeah, that's crazy. I didn't even realize that. You just give this guy such free reign from up top there. Just so much damage coming down.
It's a total fluke that they just adjusted to.
Yeah.
So in round 3, I mean, holy shit, we do it again. Like Massa has this beautiful, which I think is the play of the game.
Yeah, this was dope. This was
beautiful
insane.
split where it's kind of telegraphed, where he's kind of wall riding and keeping this kind of this position. And in the moment that Toronto decides to engage, he splits the team in half by booping half of them off, and then they're able to contest point 1. And then we move to later in the map where Atlanta decides to bring out the Bastion. It's the classic kind of high ground, Bastion junk. Well, not classic. Classic has Widow, but Bastion junk here, and they're able.
This is what I wanted to see.
Yeah, this makes more sense because Toronto only had a minute, right? They both only had a minute, so now Toronto only gets 2 attempts, and they burn all that time off the clock, and they're never able to really cap it, and it puts them up 2-1.
Yeah, just the fact that you could sure up a sure kill with a Junkrat tire, and he gets it within 30 seconds. Like that's almost all you need because it is so hard to come back after a wipe to point 1 and have that much time. You're going to looking at 20, 15 seconds.
Yeah. I didn't know. So I didn't know Enlear played May, and he played her well, very well.
Maybe that was the first time.
Who knows? He was laying down damage. Like he was landing those shots in like straight up fights, and then I see him on Junkrat, and I'm like, wait a minute, does everybody on this team just play every character?
Yeah,
at a OWL level.
That's what you got to get, man. Just a bunch of flex players.
And we kind of talked about that last year, right? Like there would be more emphasis on flex players. Who would have known our team would be the definition of that? Are we what do they call it? Prophets? Is that?
Yeah. We should get hired by somebody.
We should get hired by somebody. You're not wrong.
Yeah.
So this takes us to our map 4 here because we need to close this out, right? And Dorado. Unfortunately for Toronto, this is Atlanta's home field. I don't care if it's tier 2 or tier 1. It almost looks the same anytime an Atlanta team plays here. We have Dogman subbing in for Kodak. We have Erster subbing in for Enlear. And Atlanta on attack here first. Pakpo looks amazing. So you talked about how you were kind of disappointed with his performance last week. I think
he definitely stepped up this week. Yeah, every game, even on the Winston when we saw him play on Nubani, he was in really good form.
Yeah, he looks a lot more comfortable here too. And Dako, they're like when they're both playing at peak, it's just this beautiful coordination, right? They're a package deal. That's how it works.
Yeah.
And that's throughout this whole map. So we get a full cap. Cart doesn't stop really moving. We go to Defiant here, and they struggle. The thing with Toronto is they do a great job, and this is throughout the maps. If you pay attention, they do a great job of building ults, right? They're at the right level there, but they have a hell of a time trying to set up their set pieces. Like anytime they want to do combos or whatever, they almost botch it like 60 to 70% of the time.
Yeah. And
I think that's the problem. And this leads to Atlanta being able to full hold where we usually full hold by that bridge, and then we end up winning it 3-1.
You know what was really messed up about this? For some reason on the Overwatch League website, they only have Toronto's attack. So I watched this. I was like, well, I don't understand. I knew because I watched it after it aired. I was like, oh, I knew the results. And I was like, why are they going first? But they already had 3 caps at this point. I was like, that doesn't make any sense. So it was so weird. I finally watched the whole thing, but after I had only seen half of it, it was so odd.
Exactly. So that being said, the overall standing. So not even if you look at it right now, I think we're in 4th in our. Yeah, we're in 4th at the moment. Atlanta Reign. Who would have thought? Like all the questions are gone now. We're just known as that team that people are gonna have to deal with. It reminds me of. I feel like we're a little bit better than the LA Gladiators were last year at the beginning.
Absolutely.
Because they were a very disruptive team that people kind of wrote off, but they caused a lot of problems. But yeah, hey, we're up. We're 2-1.
Yeah, and we get 2 matches next week, which I'm excited about.
Yes, so we'll definitely be bringing you all that. And outside of that, did you have anything else you wanted to?
No, I think that's it.
That's it. All right. Well, we'll see you guys next week. So as usual, you guys can reach us at thebirdwatcherspodcast@gmail.com. Please follow on Twitter, so you can keep up with what we're doing, events and such at the Bird Watcher, and Watcher is spelled WATCH3R. Facebook and YouTube is the Bird Watchers, and Reddit and Instagram is the Bird Watchers podcast. So as usual on iTunes, on anything you're listening to, review, like if you're enjoying this. We've been getting a lot of feedback still. It's always nice, which is great. I have to force people to tell me one bad thing. Whenever I meet people, I'm like, hey, they're like, oh, I listen to podcasts, whatever. I'm like, hey, cool. Tell me one good thing and one bad thing. And they're usually creative with the bad thing because it's still kind of a good thing. But people are digging it, so we're happy that you guys are happy.
Absolutely.
And that being said, until episode 41, we'll catch you guys later.
Yeah, absolutely. See you guys. Thanks.
I have destroyed more of your kind than I can count.
You weren't given those guns to toss them around like trash.
I don't take lessons from you.
Try not to get us killed out there.